Hello, I'm Judi Tarowsky, storyteller Judi Tarowsky, the Celtic teller. And the story I'm going to tell you today comes from England. It's the Dragon of Longwitten. The town of Longwitten in England was like many other towns in England. It had a marketplace and it had a high street, but it had something not many other towns had. It had a very special well. And what made this well so special was that its waters were cool and sweet, and they had special properties. Why, if someone came in from working in the fields and were tired and their muscles were stiff and sore, a drink from that well would put them right again. And if children developed a fever, their mothers would get them a drink of water from their special well, and the children would be all right again. So you can imagine the people of Longwitten took very good care of their well. They built a small stone wall around it, they planted flowers, and they kept the area clean. And the people of Longwitten truly enjoyed their well. And then they also welcomed travelers who were coming through to enjoy those healing waters. Well, one day, a farmer was coming in from working in his fields, and he was tired and his muscles ached, and he knew that a drink from that well would put him right again. But when he approached the well, he noticed there was something wrong. Why, there was a dragon curled up around that well, and it had its tongue down in the well, and it was lapping up water like a puppy does from a puddle. Well, when the dragon saw the farmer, he immediately made itself invisible. But the farmer knew the dragon was still there because he could see the flowers being trampled, and he felt its hot breath on his head. The farmer ran back into town and immediately told everyone what he had seen. And they gathered around and said, "What can we do? The dragon won't let us near our well." The mayor spoke up, and he said, "What we need is a brave knight to come to Longwitten to help us get rid of that dragon, but there are no knights here." So they had to wait. And they waited for several days, and the people were suffering because they couldn't get to their special well. Until finally one day, a knight did ride into town, and his armor wasn't so shiny because he'd been out doing battle. And when they saw the knight ride into town, they quickly approached him and said, "Good Sir Knight, can you help us? There is a dragon at our well, and we cannot get to its special waters." And the knight, being a good, brave knight, said, "Of course I will help you, but let's go out and see what is there." So they all went out to the well, and sure enough, there was that dragon curled up around the well, drinking water from it with its long tongue, like a puppy does from a puddle. And when the dragon saw everyone, he immediately made himself invisible. So the knight knew what he was facing. So he went back to town with everyone, and they had a meeting there in the market square. And the knight asked, he said, "What would you have me to do?" And the mayor said, "See if you can get the dragon to leave. We don't want to have to hurt it, but see if he'll leave. Ask him to leave." And the knight said, "Well, all right, I'll get some good rest tonight, and I'll go out in the morning." Well, the next morning when the knight awoke, he put on his armor, and he took out from his pack a special ointment that a wizard had given him, that when he put it over his eyelids, would enable him to see anything that had made itself invisible. So the knight rode his horse out to the well, and sure enough, there was the dragon. And the dragon made himself invisible, but the knight could still see him. And the knight walked up to the dragon. He says, "Now see here, the good people of Longwitten have asked me to ask you very nicely if you will leave. Why, this isn't your well, and you're keeping the good people of Longwitten from enjoying its healing waters. Now, I'm asking you very nicely if you will please leave." And all the dragon did was look at the knight and go, "Ah!" Well, the knight rode back into town, and everyone gathered around him and said, "Well, is the dragon leaving? Did it listen to you?" "No, I'm afraid not," the knight said. He's still there. What will you have me to do?" So the people gathered around and talked among themselves, and finally the mayor came up to the knight and said, "Ask the dragon if it'd be willing to share the well with us. Why, he could have it on the even days of the week, and we could have it on the odd days, That way everyone has use of the well, and well, we don't have to hurt the dragon. All right, the knight said. I'll get a good rest tonight and I'll go out in the morning. Well, the next morning the knight arose, put on his armor, put the special salve on his eyes, and rode out to the well. And once again he found that dragon curled up around the well, drinking out of it like a puppy does from a puddle. And the knight walked up to the dragon and said, "See here, dragon. Now the good people of Longwitten have asked you very nicely to leave, please, and you refuse. But what they're offering now is if you be willing to share the well. You may have it on the even days of the week, and they can have it on the odd days of the week. That way, both of you can use the well, and no harm is done. What say you, dragon?" And the dragon looked at the knight, and all it said was, "Wah!" Well, the knight drove back into town, and the people all gathered around and said, "Well, is the dragon willing to share the well with us?" "I'm afraid not," the knight said. He absolutely refuses. What would you have me do?" So the townspeople gathered around and they talked among themselves. And the mayor came to the knight. He says, "Well, good night. I'm afraid you're going to have to fight that dragon." "I will do so," the knight said. "I will fight him to the finish. But tonight I will get a good rest, and then tomorrow I will go out to the well." So the next morning the knight arose, put on his armor and made sure it was perfectly fitting and good and tight, put the salve on his eyes, and then he rode out to the well. And there he found the dragon curled up around the well, drinking out of it like a puppy does from a puddle. The knight drew his sword and approached the dragon. He said, "See here, dragon. We have asked you nicely to leave, and you refuse. We have asked you if you would share the well, and you've refused. And now I must fight you to the finish." So the knight stepped forward to the dragon, and a fierce battle broke out between them. Back and forth they went all day. And the knight knew that blow after blow he had made with that sword should have done the dragon in, but nothing happened. He couldn't understand it, and by afternoon his sword arm was weary. So he stepped back. He said, "My strength is not working. My strength is not doing any good. I must use my wits now to see what will take to defeat this dragon." So he stood back and watched the dragon. As he watched, he noticed that the dragon had his tail down in the water of the well. And as long as that tail was down in that healing waters, nothing the knight did would affect that dragon. So the knight knew what he had to do. He stepped up to the dragon and attacked. And when the dragon attacked him, the knight stepped back. The knight attacked again. And this time the dragon came after him and the knight stepped back. This went on several times until finally the knight could see that the dragon's tail was out of the well. And that's when he stepped forward with his sword and made the fatal blow. And the dragon fell dead. Well, the townspeople had come out and were watching from behind the trees. And when they saw the dragon was dead, they all rushed out and cheered their hero, the knight. And then several of them dug a large hole in the field and buried the dragon there. And then the people went to work and they cleaned up around the well. They planted the flowers again. And this meant that they could partake of its healing waters. And as for the knight, he realized that not all battles are won with mere strength. Sometimes you have to use your wits. Thank you for the listen.